Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. What have I done? What came over me? Who am I? It was wonderful. I loved every minute of it. But at 78 years old, Sally Field has nothing left to prove. She won 2 Oscars, made lots of great movies, and everyone in Hollywood loves her. But behind all the clapping and great acting, there's a side of Sally that people don't usually see. A side that remembers every time someone hurt her, every mean thing said, every actor who was mean to her. And now that she's older and wiser, Sally Field is finally telling us the names of the 6 actors she hated the most. These weren't small fights or quick arguments. These were big, hurtful fights, some while making movies, others behind the scenes that changed her career and bothered her long after they stopped filming. You might think you know Hollywood, but this list will change everything. Let's start with the heartbreaker Burt Reynolds. Their love story was all over the magazines. Sally Field and Burt Reynolds, the famous couple of the late 70s. On screen, they were amazing, charming, playful, really likable. Smokey and the Bandit became a huge hit partly because they seemed so perfect together. But behind the scenes, the truth was much scarier. Sally once called Burt controlling, a man who loved being the boss and didn't like anyone who might steal his attention, even her. He always put her down, made fun of how she looked, questioned how smart she was, and made her feel bad about her acting in sneaky but hurtful ways. He'd say fake nice things in interviews, then come home and give her the silent treatment or make mean comments. In her book In Pieces, Sally told the truth about Hollywood. She showed how Burt wouldn't let her talk freely, how he'd cut her off mid-sentence and take over her choices both for work and in life. He wanted her next to him, smiling quietly. She said she felt like a toy, something to show off, not someone to love. Worse, he played with her feelings. One minute, he'd be sweet and loving. The next, he'd be cold as punishment. Over time, she started to lose herself. Even when she was super famous, she often felt invisible when standing next to him. "I never felt like he really saw me," she said. "I was there, but not me, not the real me." Even after all the years they spent together, Sally later said she was never sure who the real Burt Reynolds was. The man everyone loved was not the one who came home at night, and yet she tried. She gave everything she could to make it work. "I wanted to love him. I did love him, but he hurt me." He may have been the hero to everyone else, but to Sally, he was just heartbreak wearing a mask. And he was only the first one to show. Tommy Lee Jones on the set of Backroads, Sally Field came ready to work hard. It was a tough, unusual script, a chance to play a character with real feelings. She was ready to work together to make something special. But instead of friendship, she hit a wall of coldness. And that wall was named Tommy Lee Jones. From the first day, Sally said he was rude. Not just about work, but as a person. He barely said hi to her during practice, offered no friendly talk, and refused to do the usual actor stuff that helps people trust each other on a hard movie shoot. He came to work, did his job, delivered his lines, and left. No warmth, no respect, just ice. For an actress who had built her career on real emotions and kind performances, Jones's behavior was confusing. She wasn't just acting with a cold character. She was acting with a cold person. Actors are supposed to help each other. He made her feel like she was in the way. Sally later told people that she would try to start conversations between takes, ask questions about their characters, even make light jokes to make things less tense. Jones wouldn't play along. Sometimes he wouldn't even look at her. She said he treated her like she didn't belong on set with him, like she wasn't good enough for him. Critics said Backroads was bad when it came out, saying the 2 main actors had no chemistry. What people didn't know was that the problem wasn't the script. It was the cold feeling between takes. Sally once said we were supposed to play 2 broken people learning to love, but I was playing by myself. Even though she stayed professional during filming, she said the experience wore her out. The set wasn't just cold, it was lonely. For Sally, who needs connection, that kind of emotional distance felt like someone was trying to hurt her on purpose. After Backroads, she never worked with Tommy Lee Jones again, and when people asked about it in later years, she never got mad. But the cold way she talked about it said enough. She never forgot how cold a movie set could feel. But not all her fights were quiet. The attention grabber, Robert Blake. During their time filming Say Goodbye Maggie Cole, Sally Field met one of the most unstable people she'd ever worked with. Robert Blake, known for his intense acting and crazy mood swings, Blake didn't just bring weirdness to his acting. He brought it everywhere on set. From the start, Sally had trouble finding her rhythm. Blake would change lines without warning, go off script in the middle of scenes, and mess up carefully planned takes by doing things that weren't written. What might have seemed like creative freedom to him Sally saw as total chaos. She said he was undermining her at every turn, not just in front of the camera, but behind it too. Worse, his behavior wasn't just toward her. Crew members said he had frequent angry outbursts, yelling fits, and sudden mood changes that made everyone uncomfortable. One day he'd be quiet and focused, the next yelling at a lighting person or walking off set angry over a small problem. Sally, already dealing with the pressure of a hard role, found herself trying to keep the peace just to keep the movie going. But it was a losing battle. The tension showed up in every scene, and the problem soon became impossible to hide. Eventually, the project fell apart. The film was put away before it ever got shown. A victim of on-set problems that had gotten out of control. For most actors, that would have been a work setback, but for Sally, it was deeper. She later said the experience wasn't just disappointing, but scary. There are actors who act, she said, and there are actors who try to make everyone else feel small, so they feel big. Blake was the second kind. The words weren't just sharp, they were personal, and they carried the weight of a woman who had put up with more than just work differences. She walked away from Say Goodbye Maggie Cole with one promise. Never again would she put up with craziness disguised as talent. But not all fights started on set. Some began during awards season. The mean competitor Shirley MacLaine. The world saw them as a perfect pair in Steel Magnolias. Two Hollywood stars sharing the screen in a story about love, loss, and strength. But behind the scenes, the relationship between Sally Field and Shirley MacLaine was anything but nice. From the moment cameras started rolling, tensions bubbled. Sally approached the film with emotional care, deeply connecting to her role as Malin, a sad mother. She wanted honesty, feelings, depth, but Shirley approached it like a war zone. Colleagues whispered that she treated every scene like a power game, constantly bragging about her Oscar-winning past, ignoring direction and interrupting takes to push herself into moments that weren't hers to steal. On set, Sally tried to stay nice. She smiled through tight teeth, hit her marks, and kept her focus. But privately, she was tired. One really emotional scene took 17 takes, not because Sally couldn't do it right, but because Shirley refused to play it seriously. She kept adding sarcastic jokes, turning real sadness into comedy, as if making Sally's emotional performance worse was part of the script. Years later, Sally would only briefly mention the fight in interviews, saying that Shirley brought a cloud of chaos wherever she went. It wasn't said with anger, just truth. It wasn't just different styles. It was a clash of big egos. Shirley needed to control the room. Sally simply wanted to serve the story, and the damage lasted long after the final cut. While audiences cried at Malin's heartbreaking speech, Sally knew the real pain had happened off camera. She never forgot the hurt, but the next actor didn't just bruise her feelings. He broke her trust. The mind player, James Woods. Their work on Kiss Me Goodbye was supposed to be fun, a romantic comedy with a weird twist designed to make audiences happy and offer a break from serious stuff. But from the start, Sally Field felt something wrong. That something was James Woods. Woods, known for his smart but moody intensity, brought with him a kind of energy that turned playful scenes into mind games. He didn't just say lines. He picked them apart, challenged the director, and often rewrote dialogue on the spot without warning. Every practice became a fight. Sally, always a team player and emotionally honest performer, found herself run over. She later said Woods was smart in a scary way, the kind of man who used big words and sharp talking, not to work together, but to show he was the boss on set. He'd question the script, criticize the direction, and even comment on her performance mid-scene, creating a tense atmosphere that killed creativity. But what bothered Sally the most happened off camera. Woods, she said, would casually suggest that she wasn't giving enough, that her heart wasn't in it. He accused her of not trying hard during an emotionally hard shoot day, a comment that hurt deeper than he knew. To Sally, it felt less like helpful criticism and more like sabotage. He wasn't pushing her to be better. He was trying to make her feel smaller, less sure of herself. And after years of earning respect in a male-run industry, it was a bitter pill to swallow. She would later think about the experience not as an acting challenge, but as a mind game. It wasn't the role that wore me down, she said. It was having to constantly defend my worth. From that set, she walked away. Not just tired, but changed. She made herself a quiet promise. Never again would she let herself be silenced by a man who thought being mean was the same as being smart. Only one name is left, perhaps the most surprising of them all. The unexpected bad guy Dustin Hoffman. To the public, Dustin Hoffman is a legend. An actor known for being excellent with roles that earned him Oscar gold and critic praise. But to Sally Field, he was something else entirely. Not a teacher, not a teammate, just a bitter disappointment. They never starred in a movie together, but their paths almost crossed in the early 1980s during tryouts for a now-forgotten project that never got made past planning. For Sally, it was supposed to be a promising chance. Instead, it turned into one of the most embarrassing experiences of her career. During the chemistry read, Sally said Hoffman took over the room before she even walked in. He cracked jokes with the producers, made pointed comments about the script, and when she finally began her reading, he interrupted multiple times, not to help, not to work together, but to correct her delivery, comment on her choices and question her understanding of the character in front of everyone. She wasn't just being critiqued, she was being embarrassed. In Sally's words, it felt like auditioning for a man who'd already decided you weren't good enough. She said she felt like a little schoolgirl, not a two-time Emmy-winning actress who had already proven herself on stage and screen. The hurt got worse when later that week she heard from a mutual friend that Hoffman had bragged about messing up the audition. He reportedly said the chemistry wasn't there and that he'd made sure of it. To Sally, that wasn't just unprofessional, it was mean. It took time for her to make peace with what happened. For weeks, she questioned herself, wondering if she had somehow messed up the opportunity. But with distance came understanding. The problem hadn't been her performance. It had been Hoffman's need to control the room, to prove he was the smartest man there, even if it meant stepping on someone else's voice. She later called it one of the most embarrassing moments she'd ever had professionally, and it changed her forever. From that point on, Sally made a promise. No more working with men who thought being arrogant was the same as being smart. And she kept that promise.